Good day, viewers. Welcome to a new edition of 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television with me, Manir Dan Ali. Our guest today is Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim, who is a veteran of the oil industry, though not an oil man himself. He has a PhD in political science from an American university. He's been in the media for about a decade and then moved into the industry where he's been for over 2 decades now. Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Manir.
How was the transition, before we speak of the energy transition, your transition, you started out as a PhD graduate assistant lecturer for about a decade in the university system. What made you to move out of the university into the media industry?
Okay, this was, I believe, in 1990. There was a major change going on in the Daily Times of Nigeria. Then, I believe 60% owned by the federal government and 40% by the private sector.
We are talking of the biggest newspaper owned by government at that time.
Exactly. It's the Daily Times will be 100 years in the next 4 years. 96 years today. It was established in 1927. Now, they were doing the major reform. They brought in one Dr. Ogumbi during the Babangida government. And he felt that he really wanted the Daily Times to be truly national newspaper. And on the whole of the Daily Times editorial board, there wasn't anyone from the north. Ismaila Mohammed, who is today the Emir of Karachi, was on the board, and he was appointed the managing director of Standard newspapers.
That's the Plateau State government-owned newspaper.
So the management of the Daily Times sent letters to 4 universities: Bayero, ABU, University of Sokoto, and University of Jos, asking them to please send them academics who will be on their editorial board for 1 year on sabbatical.
Okay, so it started with a sabbatical invitation.
And I was sent, among others. Eventually, I was chosen to be on the editorial board of the Daily Times for 1 year. Before the end of my first year, the management requested Bayero to please extend my stay by another year. And within 2 years, I felt really I was very interested in journalism. Beyond just being on the editorial board, I became the op-ed editor of the Daily Times. And by 1993, I moved into media administration, running the Daily Times in northern Nigeria, for all the northern states and the FCT, marketing, advert, and everything editorial. And that was how I came to stay in the Daily Times from 1990 until 1999.
So what made you to move away from that sector now to the oil industry?
Okay, in 1999, Obasanjo appointed me managing director of the New Nigerian. In fact, he offered me the Daily Times. And I said, look, thank you very much, Mr. President. If you really want me to do a good job, I think I'd rather go to the New Nigerian. He said, New Nigerian is dead. I said, that's the more reason why you should send somebody to revive that place. My vision of a newspaper house is a paper that is strong. Tell the government when it's doing the right thing, and tell it when it's doing the wrong thing. And why I want to go and work in the New Nigerian is that all the media houses in Nigeria are located in the southern part of this country. FRC and Kaduna and the Nigerian trust wasn't there at that time.
Yeah.
So we need to go and revive that newspaper house. And he said, if that's what you want, I said yes.
Yeah, it is.
And I went to Kaduna determined to bring back to life the New Nigerian that we used to read when we were in the secondary school. I was in the New Nigerian when in 2002, OPEC advertised the position of head of PR and information department.
That's the organization for petroleum.
Yes, the Vienna-based oil
Exporting countries.
Exactly. I applied. We were invited for an interview in June 2002. 7 countries, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Iran, Venezuela, Libya, Kuwait, and I can't remember. Anyway, we went for the interview. The results came out, and I was given the position.
And so you left the New Nigerian half dead?
No, to be very honest with you,
met it.
When I went to the New Nigerian in 1999, the New Nigerian was printing 2,500 copies a day. 1,000 in Lagos, 1,500 in Kaduna, out of which 1,000 was given out as complimentary copies. And out of the 1,500 that goes to the market, about 500 comes back as unsold.
So a very dire situation, even by today's standards, when newspapers are like walking.
We were doing 5 publications. We had 750 staff, and staff were owed about 5 months' salary. The first thing I did when I went to the New Nigerian was to lock myself in the MD's office. I refused to see anybody, talk to anybody, and I asked the HR department to give me the files of all the top management of the organization, all the GMs, all the deputy managers, and all the managers. After I had gone through, it took me about 2 weeks. Even the old files that have been closed. When I finished that, I now invited these guys to have it one-on-one with them. Tell me about, and when you start talking and you miss something, I remind you, no, there was something you missed, or you said this wrong. When I did for about 5, 6 people, it spread that, look, when you go, just say the honest thing, because he knows everything. And it was after that that we had our first, what you call town hall meeting, all the staff. And I told them, we have 754 staff in this place.
My goodness.
We have 5 titles, and we are printing 2,500 copies. We are selling 1,000. I can't sustain this. I am going to tell you straight away that we are going to rationalize staff.
The word that most staff do not like to hear.
Exactly. But I promise you, I will not sack anybody until I have the money to pay you all your arrears and to pay you your gratuity. And I will work with the government to make sure that the federal government that took the New Nigerian from the northern governments takes back the liability of your pension. It is not the responsibility of the northern governments or the newspaper house to provide your pension. Nobody asked the federal government to come and take that newspaper. It was Murtala Obasanjo that took it. So if they take it, they should also take the liability.
But that hasn't happened to date.
It has. I'll come to that. So anyway, I then did a report after about 1 month, and I took it to the president, President Obasanjo, and told him, this is the situation at the New Nigerian. This is what I need to be able to revive it, and I need your support. Obasanjo said, no, we are not going to give any money.
Any money.
But the determination I've seen in you makes it impossible for me to say, I will not give you money. I will talk to the vice president because this is a collective decision. They gave me 100 million. And within 3 days, 54 million of that money I paid to staff, and I rationalized them. I paid you. By that time, we had come to about 7 months of arrears. And I paid, if you're going to go, I pay you your 7 months, and I pay you your gratuity. If you're going to remain, I'm going to pay you only 4 months, and then we'll pay you the rest as you continue to work. And that's exactly what we did. And by the time we did the rationalization, we came to 180 staff, and I recruited another 60 staff from outside.
So still over
to make
200.
240.
Yes.
Yes. And by the time I left the New Nigerian in February 2003, our production had gone to 18,000 copies.
18,000.
18,000 from 1,500 in Kaduna, and 18,000, and we were selling almost 17,000.
So on the way back to life.
Exactly. And I wasn't giving anybody any complimentary copy. No complimentary. to anybody.
So what happened after you left? Apparently the game changed, and now news,
what
the
happened?
new Nigerian is all but dead.
When I was in the new Nigerian, one thing I made sure is I did not request to become a managing director. I was a consultant to the Obasanjo campaign. And when I was invited, I made it very clear I'm not a politician. And if you want my services, this is what I'm going to charge you. You pay me 3 times. You pay me as soon as we sign the contract. You pay me the 1/3 just before the primaries. And you pay me 1/3 whether you win or not. And that was what we agreed. I was paid the first money.
But not on the new Nigerian job.
No, I had not started in Nigerian. I was in the Daily Times.
Yes. So back to the new Nigerian. I mean, after your valiant effort, you left because you got a new job.
No, I understood your question.
Yes.
I'm trying to tell you what led to the collapse of the new Nigerian.
Okay, go on.
So when I was given this job, I made it very clear that I have come to work to revive this newspaper. And please, Mr. President, give me the latitude to do what I believe is right. And here, I will tell you, I tremendously respect President Obasanjo. Less than 2 weeks after my appointment, the Northern governors were going to hold their first Northern governors meeting, and I was summoned. They said they want back the new Nigerian. I said, no problem. And in the course of conversation, this with the SSGs before the governor, one of the SSGs said something that I really felt. I said, look, excuse me, you're not more Northern than me. Okay? And by the way, I wasn't appointed by any Northern governor. I was appointed by the federal government. And I don't owe you any responsibility to come to this meeting. And I walked out of the meeting. And I came back to my office and I called the president. And I said, the Northern governors are going to meet tomorrow. The SSGs called me today. And this is what they're saying. Now tell me, what should I say when the governors call me tomorrow? Before I went to the new Nigerian, Obasanjo has said to me, look, you can go give it to the Northern governors. You can revive it. Whatever it is, I don't want you to remain in the new Nigerian. I want you to come and work with me in the villa. And given the few things that happened immediately after Obasanjo was appointed, you know, his first few appointments, and really alienated the North from him. And I said, you can't let go of the new Nigerian now. You have a duty to revive it. He said, okay, Farouk, go to the meeting tomorrow. Whatever you think is right, say it. Come and call me, and I'll say I was the one that asked you. And that was how he empowered me.
And what did you tell the governors?
Luckily, they didn't call me. So, but what I'm trying to say is this. With that attitude, the president empowered me such that Northern governors, ministers from the North, VIPs, could not call me and say, do this with the new Nigerian or stop this. I'll give you an example. A serving minister called to tell me that his correspondent, the correspondent in his state should be removed. I told him I want to remove him. He went to the president and told him. A sitting governor went to the president and said, I'm using the new Nigerian to promote ANPP, not PDP. I heard so many things. So one day I went to the president and I said, Mr. President, I have come to thank you very much. Take your job, I don't want it. He said, why? I said, I've heard what is happening. These are people that have political weight. Me, the only thing you get is my head. I don't have constituency. And he said, Farouk, go and do what you're doing. I like what you're doing. And that emboldened me. I'll give a very good example.
Yeah.
Less than a month after Obasanjo had been sworn in, there was this crisis in Shagamu. Northerners were killed.
Yes, I remember. I was there.
Bodies of being put in trailers and brought to the north. The whole of the southern newspapers were quiet, silent about this. And people were getting agitated. We wrote an editorial criticizing the Ogun State government and even the federal government. A tough shot in the government of the president, who was actually instrumental in my,
been there,
called me. Have you read today's editorial of your newspaper? I said, yes. What do you mean? You should control your editorial board members. And I said, sir, I wrote that editorial. Do you have another job? I said, I can always go back to the university. That's why I got a PhD. So that at the worst, the university will always need me. And he said, no, I'm serious. I said, I'm also serious.
So you are saying, in other words, that is this blatant interference by powerful people that kind of kills media in Nigeria and especially in the north?
Not just the blatant, they did to me. But I said no, because at the highest level, I had the support of the president, and he, so I can look a minister or a governor and say, I won't do it.
Very interesting point, but we must go on a short break at this point and resume the conversation shortly thereafter. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it is 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television, and our guest today is Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim, a former managing director of the New Nigerian Newspapers, who is currently the Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization. Dr. Farouk, we've dwelt on your time at the New Nigerian, but it's so interesting that we can't just rush away from it. So at the end of all this, are you suggesting that the takeover of the New Nigerian, from the federal government by the northern governors, kind of hasten it to its grave?
I think New Nigerians started dying even before they handed over to the northern governors. I think a lot has to do with the management. When the person who took over the management of the New Nigerian after me didn't have that courage to look people in authority in the face and say, I won't do. Because he felt that that was the biggest achievement he can make in his life, and he can't let it go.
So the rank and the syndrome just carried on.
Exactly. I remember even as head of department at the OPEC Secretariat, when I heard, for example, that Mahmoud Jega had been suspended, I called the MD. I said, what the hell is happening? He said, well, the minister. I said, look, do you know how we moved the New Nigerian from 1,000 to 18,000? Because we're writing what people believe if you keep on toeing to what the ministers say, you're going to kill this newspaper.
And that is not even the tradition of the New Nigerian. In its heydays, it was seen as the most authoritative. The editor or the MD could look even Yakubu Gowon, then military head of state, and say, look, we stand by our story.
I think what happened in the New Nigerian is not different from what has happened in most corporations on the Nigerian scene. Everybody believes, or most people believe, that when they get positions, a favor has been done to them. For as long as you keep thinking that it is a favor, then for so long will you continue to do everything to be in their favor. But if you believe it is service, like I told you, I went to Obasanjo 3 times to tell him, thank you very much, I can't do this work. And 3 times he says, we came together, you're not going to go before me.
What gave you the courage to do that? Because most people will do the rank type of thing so as to keep their job, because they think that they must put food on the table and they don't want to get some.
Manir, when I went to the New Nigerian, I had 3 cars. I had a Mercedes, I had a Honda, and I had a Starlet. We didn't have an official, there was an official car, I think Evolution for the MD. When we got, and I told you when we rationalized staff, we hired new people. I hired a number of people from the south, of northern extraction, of course. And they were having official cars. And I said, please, come and help us. Well, I said, I'll give you official car. My Mercedes, I gave it to late Ibrahim Audison. I gave my Honda to another person. with the understanding that when we get money and I can buy official cars for them. When we got the money, we sat down and said, look, gentlemen, my priority is not giving you comfort at this time. Let's build this place first. So we invested the money in reviving the new Nigeria. And because I left for the almost 4 years I was in the new Nigerian, they were using my personal car. When I got the OPEC job, I was leaving. Sir, you want? I said no. After you've used my car for 4 years, keep it. The point I'm making is I went there with the determination to change the place. And for as long as you don't see that place as a source of making money, then you can do well. But if you think that you're going to make money from it, either because you really need the money or because of your greed, because there are two, corruption is...
Yeah, sometimes it's in the mind.
Yes.
Actually, people's poverty is more in the mind than...
Exactly. So basically, this is how the new Nigerian was killed.
So can we move on to your other career in the oil industry? You started in OPEC. At one time, you were the group general manager in the NNPC, and then now you are the Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization. You seem to have become an oil man.
When I went to OPEC, I went there, I got interviewed for the position of Head of Public Relations and Information Department. I must tell you, I knew next to nothing about oil. The interview was strictly on PR, editorial, etc. When I assumed duty, I told myself I cannot be a spokesperson of an industry I don't understand. And I gave myself 2 years. At that time, OPEC was 7 years. Believe me, in a little over 1 year, when the research division people do their studies and the editorial, we're going to review it, I say, no, I disagree with this, I change this. People thought maybe my degrees were in, I said, no. I just told myself that I am going to dedicate myself to reading and reading and reading, attending conferences and trainings. By the time I left OPEC, the director of research in OPEC disapproved, I remember very, very vividly, an article that was to be used in the OPEC Energy Review. I was the editor of the OPEC Energy Review. I ignored him and I published it. And within 3 months, the citation from that article passed all the other citations for the last 5 years of the history of OPEC Energy Review. And
now you are at the African Petroleum Producers Organization. What does it do? Because it's not like OPEC, it doesn't issue quotas.
No.
And I've seen the issue of this energy transition. I've also seen that it has some funds. I don't know where it got the funds, that it is helping to make some of the transition. Can you elaborate on?
I was working in OPEC.
Yes.
When Dr. Lukman, then minister,
the former minister of,
requested the Secretary General to please allow me to come and help him, like for 6 months or 1 year. That was how I came, and I told him I will come, but please, I know the intricacies, the instability in the system. If you want me to come to work for you, get one of the parastatals under you to employ me and then post me to your office. And that's how NNPC employed me, and I was posted to his office as advisor communications. I worked with him barely for 3-4 months, and his government, the Erado government, Designy came. We worked for 2-3 months, and we couldn't work together.
It is Alison Designy.
Yes, Alice Madueke. I think from April to June, and we parted ways. And then she asked that I should be sacked, and the MD at that time, Austin Oniwon, said no. This gentleman, when he came from OPEC, we were all shocked at the fact that he took a salary that is 1/4 of what he was being paid in OPEC. So we have a position in NNPC, GM Media, please. She said, okay, take him away, I don't want him in our office. And that is how I went back to NNPC. After 2 years, I got promoted to a group general manager in charge of public affairs. I was on that position when Designy came back to ask that I should come to her office. And when I was invited, I said, fine. She said she wanted me to come and become Group General Manager, OPEC Matters. That was when she was trying to get the position of OPEC Secretary General. And many people told her, you can't get this without Farouk. He knows the system, he is there, he knows everybody. So when she called me, I said, okay, can I request one favor? She said, what is it? May I report to the PAMSEC, not directly to you? You don't want to? I said, all of us are working for you. But I feel more comfortable working with the PAMSEC than in your office. She said, okay. And that was how I worked there. When she left, Kachuku came. He retained me. When he left, Silva came. He also retained me. I was holding that position. This time, in fact, they expanded it to become Group General Manager, International Energy Relations. I was OPEC Governor for Nigeria, Executive Board Member for GCF for Nigeria, IEF. And when Kachuku was president of APA, they were going to do a major reform of the African Petroleum Producers Association. And I was made the chairperson of the technical committee.
Right, so that is how you eventually...
After the reform,
yeah,
the position was advertised. Nigeria nominated me, other countries nominated their candidates. We went for an interview, and in 2019, the Ministerial Council appointed me as Secretary General.
Can you tell us, because we are running out of time, in a minute or so, what exactly that organization is currently doing, the key thing?
Okay. APO was established in 1987, essentially to bring together African countries that are producing oil and gas, to share thoughts, etc. But not much was done until after 2015, when the world decided to move away from oil and gas. It was at that time that these countries realized that in the nearly 70 to 100 years that we've been producing oil and gas, we have been heavily dependent on foreign financing, foreign technology and expertise, and also foreign markets. Now that those that we have been dependent on have decided to move away from oil and gas, and we have 125 billion barrels of oil in our ground, 600 and something trillion cubic feet of gas, and we have the largest proportion of people in the world. 900 million Africans do not have energy. 600 million Africans don't know what electricity is about. Are we going to leave this oil and gas in the ground because Europe and America says no? It was then that we said, let's reform this organization and see what we can do so that we can use this energy to change the living standards of our people, because it is this same energy that Europe and America used to get industrialized to change the living conditions of their people.
Very important point, but I'm afraid we must stop it there and probably aim at another session where we'll okay. devote a lot to just the organization itself okay. and what it is doing, especially in the area of the energy transition. Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Manir. Thank you.
Viewers, that is the end of this edition of 30 Minutes. Keep a date with us.